Greetings again and nice to have you on Talk Point. My name is Omololu Rosanwu. Today on Talk Point, we will be looking at emergency situations and of course, for situations in emergencies to take place, certain information must take place and certain numbers must be used, which Lagos State has also created. That's what we're looking at today, and we're also using that to mark the World Emergency Number Day. I have a guest in the studio, but before I introduce my guest, every 11th of November, of February rather, is set aside all over the world to actually mark the World Emergency Number Day to create awareness on preparations during emergency situations. And of course, the Lagos State government has equally added to the 112, it has added the 767. We also know that the federal government, through the Federal Road Safety Commission, also makes use of the 112 numbers. These are numbers of emergency situations, and there are also other numbers, but these numbers are actually toll-free line numbers. No charges apply in situations like this. I have a guest in the studio that will be doing justice to that, and he is the general manager of the Lagos State Command and Control Center. He is Femi Giwa. Mr. Giwa, nice to have you again on Talk Point.
Thank you so much, my dear brother.
It's nice having
Happy
you.
to be on this platform.
Yes, it's so clear. I'm seeing the inscription on your shirt, 112 or 767, Lagos State Command and Control Center. Can you just give us information on this center?
Well, thank you so much. Like you said, 112 or 767, 112 or 767. That's the emergency toll-free line of the state. And this is what we expect all and sundry, the public in general. This number must be, this 3-digit number must be a number that should be stored, must be kept. Because when emergency happens, they happen unexpectedly. And then what do you do when an emergency strikes? Particularly catastrophic emergencies that are of, very big degree. So all you need to do is you call for assistance or help. And that's why the number is very, very important. Once you call that number, it's toll-free. You're not going to be charged anything on your phone. And that, once you put up that call, it will be relayed to the Command and Control Center, where the call takers will be able to quickly try your call, analyze this call, escalate those calls to those who will be able to provide help, and help will come immediately. Within the twinkle of an eye, help will come, and the emergency assistance will come from the first responders.
Okay, yes, I know that those numbers are rested within your organization, but what is the coordination that you do mostly with emergency situations and responders? Because those lines are very key. How do you process those things, and how do you involve other agencies in this regard?
Okay, that's a very beautiful question. Now, if you look at the Command and Control Center, it's a combination of two very important components. Like I told you, you talk about the call center. The call center component is where the call takers, or those that will fail as a call agent, pick up calls directly from the public, interface with those callers, ask them specific questions on the dynamics of the incident they are reporting, what kind of incident, the location, and then some other questions that we help for them to quickly triage that call and then escalate that call. Then the second component is what we call the emergency operation center, or the control room. That's where you have representative of first responders that we refer to as the multi-agency coordination team. Now you see representative of LASEPA, of LATSMA, of RRS.
LASEMA, you mean LASEMA?
Yes, Lagos State Emergency Management Agency.
LASEMA.
That's what we say, multi-agency, various agencies. What do they do there? Once those calls are escalated, they will be able, within the shortest possible and not exceeding 3 to 5 minutes, look at those calls, the dynamics of those calls, use their internal dispatch protocol to look at the nearest emergency response unit. For example, we have fire has its zones all over the state, so over 20. Lasema has Lasema response unit. Likewise, you have ambulance points, every ambulance point. The essence of any emergency response is life-saving. And life-saving is a function of your response time. Therefore, if an incident happens, we have been able to create a system where we have been able to decentralize emergency response across the state. So what we do is that, depending on the location, you have a unit where that you can quickly deploy. Once that call is dispatched, within the twinkle of an eye, there's deployment. And the essence is to have what we call an improved response time, so that you're able to preserve that golden hour, which is a timeline between life and death. So that's what we do. So basically, the magic is the multi-agencies are there. The magic is we have a call center where calls are processed. Once those calls are processed, they are escalated to the multi-agency coordination team, who also understands the dynamics of centers across the state. If you wouldn't expect, if there is an incident, of course, we at Badagry, and then we want to deploy resources from Ikeja. I mean, that would mean that you'll not be able to conserve that golden hour. Okay. So you look at the nearest location, and then the first responders there will be able to mobilize their resources and carry out life-saving activities.
Okay, yes, I know you also have information on some of these decentralized areas. They're spread across the 3 central districts, right? But how is, because response time is dependent from when your officers pick calls, yes, and between that and transferring such calls to those that are supposed to be the first responders, how is the timing, how often, how precise, and how do they get trained to ensure that these things get done easily?
Now, right from when these calls are relayed by the public to the Command and Control Center, now there are specific rules and guidelines for both the call takers or the call agents and the multi-agency. It is expected that when a call comes in, a call agent has been trained. There's a standard operating procedure.
Okay.
There is quality assurance that checks how call takers, how they handle call. It is expected that within this time frame of 1 to 2 to 3 minutes, you have been able to track those calls. And how do you track? You ask a couple of questions. You know the location. You know the type of. If you say, for example, fire. What kind of fire? Is it domestic fire? Is it industrial fire? What kind of building is it? Is it a high-rise building? These are questions they ask within a twinkle of an eye. 2 minutes, it is escalated to the multi-agency coordination team. The multi-agency coordination, they also have their own standard operating procedure, or what to call their own concept of operation. So quickly we did, because once, like you said, response time is a function of when the call when that call has been received at the center to when it is escalated, and then deployment and mobilization of first responder to the scene of the. That's when that's when we begin to look at how you conserve the golden hour. So it is very important that every member of the multi-agency coordination and even the call takers are trained on the very essence of time, and they are monitored because it's quality assurance.
Okay, some of these calls that you receive, I know that from the statistics that we have, between January 2025 and November, I'm sure you must have received more calls in December, but between January and November, you had about 11,127 emergency calls, out of which 8,000 plus were emergency situations and fire and things like that. Now, how do you separate real calls from aux calls? I mean, when I say aux calls, I mean false calls. Some will just call and just want to test the lines if they're actually functioning. So how do you separate them? How do your officials also get to know real calls from fake calls?
I told you about structured questioning. I told you about triage. Now, you triage when those callers put up there, you triage those calls.
Can you speak out a little?
Yeah. I told you about structured questioning, which comes from you triaging that call. You really want to know what exactly happened. Where is the location of that? You see, for somebody who is putting up let's say, for example, a prank call, or he's putting up a hoax call, may not be able to, when you begin to ask this structured question. So for a trained call taker or a call agent, in less than 30 seconds, 1 minute, you would know. Because there are a couple of questions, specifics that I'm going to ask you. For somebody who probably is reporting an incident, there's this level of seriousness. There are specifics. He has those specifics with him. So by the time you carry those, structured questioning, you try those calls, in less than a minute, you know. So, and that's why they are trained. They are trained, to be able to ask this question about the location, about the types of incident, about secondary incident, to also tell you, okay, what is the landmark, okay, where's the access and egress. By the time you start asking, where's the access, how do we get to, because you are there. You are reporting as a bystander. You have all these specifics. Okay. But when you begin to ask somebody and somebody is reporting, in no time, you see him will just, abandon that call. And that's why sometimes we have high level of abandoned calls. So, because most of those calls that come as hoax call or maybe nuisance call, you just know that these people are only wasting the resources of the state government. But it is very, very needful to say that the laws are there. The Lagos State Command and Control Center laws of Lagos State 2015, if you look at section 10, provides, for punitive, actually frowns at people, calling or perhaps playing with the emergency number. And section 14 there specifically spells out penalty. So you may, depending on the gravity of how often perhaps you are engaged in hoax call, there are specific amount of 3 months imprisonment or both. So the laws, and of course also the new Lagos State Fire Rescue Service law also provides for punitive measures. So there are punitive measures that are spelled out, and then we enforce this from time to time.
Yes, since that is also a good thing, but one area that we want to know also is, you said there are punitive measures.
Yes.
Now, have some people been apprehended? Have they been sanctioned? Have they been slammed?
There are a few cases in past time people have been prosecuted. But you see, prosecution, enforcement is a means to an end and not an end itself. So what we do is to continue to sensitize the public, to continue to be involved in several forms of advocacy, so that people understand that, you see, beyond this punitive measure, when you put up an hoax call, what you have done is you have debarred those real callers from reaching the Command and Control Center. And what you're doing is that you're killing somebody somewhere. So people need to understand the import of their actions and their inaction. And that's the essence of any law. The law is to ensure because enforcement is just about the last point. But we'll continue to educate people, we'll continue to build their resilience to understand that, they must be partners in progress with the state government.
Okay, I know that you also have, you're working in line with the international standards that has been set in place. You also have your standard operating procedures, which you also use. But as the world also marks the World Emergency Number Day, and you also join in doing that, what are the plans that you have put in place to continue to make people get more aware of these numbers?
Thank you so much, because you see, like you rightly said in your preamble and your introduction, you talked about the World Emergency Number Day as a day set aside every February 11. It is committed to raising awareness around the globe on the importance of the emergency numbers and how that these emergency numbers can be effectively utilized, for saving lives in the event of emergencies. And then particularly what is important is, public education. Public education is, if you see something, you say something, and then you sort something. But if you see something, how do you say something if you don't have this emergency number? So we have a couple of programs. We have town hall meetings. For this year, as part of our work plan, we have town hall meetings. We have several workshops that we have stakeholders meeting. And as I speak to you right now, as I leave this place, now we have one of the very strong influencers in the state that we're going to have meeting with. Okay. So we are using social media influencers because the social media platform is a very big platform that you can reach millions of Lagosians. So we are using that platform. We are engaging ambassadors, those who have made remarkable progress and they've been able to make mark in the sense of time in the state and at the federal level. So we are using a couple of strategies. And then of course this particular event too that we are celebrating, and I speak to you today, I've been to channels, we've been to several places, to talk about this. So, and of course we have we will be marking sometime around June, we'll be marking the Lagos State Emergency Coordination Summit, where we're also going to use. So every platform that we have is an opportunity. And we will maximize this opportunity in line with the things agenda of Mr. Governor. Mr. Governor has done so much. For example, as I speak to you today, beyond the 767112, there are various platforms. There are various ICT platforms and then various infrastructure that Mr. Governor has put in place to be able to do what? To protect our citizens, to be able to save life, to be able to strengthen the security and the safety architecture of the state.
Yes, I want us to look at trickling it down to the younger ones at the grassroots. Now, what are there plans to do that, or what do you want to do, or what are your plans to ensure that the ones they are growing up now, catching them young right from the primary or the secondary school, are there plans?
Yeah, part of our program for this event that we're celebrating, the World Emergency Number Day, we have marked about 4 schools. And part of our work plan too is also building the resilience of those at the level of primary, secondary school. Because you see, these people are supposed to be the future of tomorrow. So we have several plans in the pipeline. Taking our emergency number to school, raising champions, emergency number champions at the level of our primary and secondary school, using influencers, of course, that these youths, our youths, they revere so much. So there are plans, there are pipelines, and there are a lot of strategies that we have in the pipeline. And like I would always say, sensitization must be on a continuum. Sensitization is not a one-stop thing. I do sensitization and no, that's not how it is done. Communication becomes effective when you come to pass that message consistently until you're able to measure the amount of progress you've made. And that's what the administration of Mr. Governor is committed to. And we're using different platforms, various levels of collaboration. Today, we're at the 9th Brigade Nigerian Army to talk to them, to look at partnership. How can we also make use of various platforms to be able to strengthen the disaster emergency management system of the state and also to cascade this emergency number. So we are collaborating, we are working with different groups to ensure that we'll get it down to the grassroots.
There are border plans and border towns, rather, border places. Take, for instance, around the express, there are border towns. Do you get calls from those areas, and do you partner with your sister states to help situations out? Is it possible?
I'll tell you, this is what we see almost on the web. Take, for example, the stretch of Lagos-Ibadan. Sometimes we see that as Greater Lagos. We refer to some of those places as Greater Lagos. You move through Iba for Mowe. We have received several because you see, you need to give it to the state government. We have built a very robust emergency management system. I think one time it was around in 2019 when the United States Agency for International Development team, when they came to, they were surprised. And right there they told us that, look, the infrastructures and then the system we have built can be compared to that of LA.
Really?
That was what they said when they came here. So it would interest you to know that from time to time, because Lagos Ibadan, for example, these are border town, these are border point, but it's also the gateway to commerce to Lagos. So it's as part of our own responsibility, we have had instances where we have emergencies, we have disaster, catastrophic disaster, that would mean that that would affect commerce. We have from time to time deployed our resources to the state. So we receive calls. We receive calls from Mowe, we receive calls from border town. They call 112 and they tell us, once it is within our capacity, and we know, of course, we do what we call as hazard identification, we do a risk assessment. And when you're talking about risk assessment, you're not only talking about human loss, you're talking about economic loss. You're looking at the potential, the probability, what kind of loss in terms, how do we, what's the quantum of loss we're going to have, that we are going to experience as a result of this gridlock, chronic stresses and chronic stresses around these zones. So we have had to, from time to time, deploy our resources and work with our sister state to ensure that we have a very, very free traffic, and most importantly, an environment that is not distorted.
In 2025, between this January and November, you had about 57 cases of building collapses.
Yes.
And I also know that robbery cases also happened within that period, which amounted to about 400 or so. How do you coordinate that? Because it doesn't fall within you to attend to robbery cases. How do you do it?
No, you see, let's get it straight. You see, we must understand the nexus, the connection between the command and like I will always tell people, it's good for us to educate the public to understand that every emergency response is kick-started from the command and control center. Now, when you call 76112 for help, where is it relayed? It is relayed to the command and control center. That's where all the ICT infrastructures are. That's where the collegians are. That's where the multi-agencies are. That's where these calls are processed. That's where the deployment is done. That's where the dispatch is done. So we do what we call with dispatch resources, personnel, equipment. We ensure that through the multi-agencies that are there, we also ensure that we monitor the dynamics of everything. We have our video wall matrix technology. Now, you would also recall that we have cameras in the state, and we are installing a new video wall matrix technology through the instrumentality of Mr. Governor. Mr. Governor has been gracious for us to put in place what we call technology that can stand side by side any technology you see in Europe and in the US. So with this, if you have an incident around maybe across the state, specific areas, they are interfaced with the video matrix technology. The cameras are there, and what do? Telemetrics are what? They are terminated at the command and control, where the multi-agency can look in real time. Oh, this is let's say, for example, you have a high-rise building that is affected by fire. As it moves from the first, second floor, you are seeing it in real life, and you know the kind of deployment, the kind of help that you need to carry out at that point in time. Okay. Do we need to deploy a high-rise firefighting equipment? Do we need more personnel? We can monitor public safety seamlessly within the confines of the Emergency Operations Center of the Command and Control Center.
Really?
So this is what we are doing. You see, we are moving to the next phase, which is what we call the Lagos State Emergency Responders Management System, to further, upgrade our response mechanism. And in due course, we'll come here to talk about that.
I would love you to actually speak to that. I know that there are other plans for Lagosians. So as we round up now, your advice as we just round up in 1 minute.
Well, my advice is, if you see something, say something. And when you say something, that thing will be sorted. It is our responsibility as Lagosians to report any incident, and we must ensure that we build our resilience, understand that those golden numbers, 767 or 112, they are very important. That's where help can come from. And once you dial those numbers, regardless of whether you have airtime or you don't have airtime, it is toll free. Help will come very close to you in no time. So I expect that we'll also desist from making prank calls, desist from making nuisance calls. When you do that, what you have done deliberately, you're hurting somebody somewhere. It may be your brother. So don't do that. Be very, very responsible and responsive in the use of the emergency toll-free line.
Yes, I've been speaking with Mr. Femi Giwa. He is the General Manager of the Lagos State Command and Control Center, and we've been talking on issues of having to relay calls to emergency management officials across Nigeria and across Lagos State particularly. I want to thank you so much for being part of Talk Point.
Thank you so much.
Yes, on that note, we have come to the end of Talk Point. Like I always say, 767 and 112 are the lines to always call in times of emergency. Stay out of trouble. Do what is right so that Lagos and indeed Nigeria can get better. I am Omololu Roson, signing out.